Grand Rising Life Force, and welcome to Speak Pro Radio with Tank and Lauda. So, this is the first time that we have done anything actually live. So, we have no idea who's going to watch, or if anyone's going to watch, or how many people are going to see this, or what amazing mistakes that we're going to make. So, I'm really excited to do this. So, Lauda, let's talk. What's on your mind today? Tell me where you want to start.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, Mr. Rao, how are you?
Wonderful.
Okay, hang on. Let's just put this. Oh, no, we don't want that. No.
The best thing about being live is that you get to learn with us.
Right.
So I think you have me pinned is why.
There we go. Okay.
All right.
Hi, everyone. How are you? And how are you, Mr. Rao?
I am excited. I think we've made a lot of progress over the past several months and past couple days. And I'm excited about talking about what's actually going on in the world today because this is a monumental time in history and in everything. So Life Force, for everyone who might be new to this, is Life Force is a movement. It's an idea. It's a concept of like-minded people coming together to change the world. So we're gathering people from all over the world of all walks of life so that we can figure out and come up with real solutions to the world's problems. And this is all part of a much larger kind of a multiversal restoration, but something called the Restoration Plan. And we're going to talk about that because I think it's something that not enough other people outside of, Kim Gogan are really talking about. And I think it's important to repeat a lot of the things that have actually changed in the world today and are changing every day. And also kind of addressing how do we all get to be part of it, right? Because this is something where we have to contribute. It's not even an option. If you're on this planet, you are part of the restoration, either in the positive or negative, I guess, but you're definitely part of it. So, Lauda, where are we starting?
Well, I don't know, Mr. Rao, where would you like to start off? We can actually go by how you watched the situation report. So did I. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, we did have a few questions come in, but I'm going to just leave that towards the end. But what I wanted to ask you was, why won't BRICS coins work?
Okay, so we're going to jump right into it, apparently. So
You asked me the question, so
why won't BRICS coins work? Okay, so first, let's start with the topic. We're going to start with talking about the financial system, right? Okay, because there's a lot of things going on with the global financial system that people don't know anything about, such as we are in the midst of a global liquidity crisis. And the question would be, why? Why are we in a global liquidity crisis? Well, it's because the global deep state, the cabal, the order, the Black Dragon families, the Black Eagles, the Order of the Black Sun, all of these groups have controlled global finances forever. They've controlled where the money goes, who can have money, who can't. And they all kind of coordinated and worked together to do different things. So what they were trying to do, right, is basically there was a big plan. This is something the World Situation Report and Kim Gogan has been talking about recently, but she's been talking about this for years, to be honest. There was a plan, and this is the plan that a lot of people kind of accidentally have supported, is to revalue the currencies, right? That was a big one. Like, we're going to revalue the currencies, right? Then, but the real intent behind the global currency reset, which has now become more commonly known as the global reset, was to crash the US dollar because there's 147 countries pegged to the US dollar. So if the dollar crashes, all these countries' economies crash at the same time, right? That's what would happen. Now, what they did was they sold this to everyone like, this is great. This is great. The global economy is going to crash, and that's when you know it's go time, right? The white hats are coming in. They're going to miraculously save the day. But what's really come to light over the past several years is the white hats are not as do-gooder as they may think. And a lot of them do think they're doing good work. But the reality is they've been working for the wrong side, right? This is kind of what happens with all uh, planned opposition, right? So all the people that are out there that think they have a super secret source of intel, right? This super source of intel where they know they have the highest level, blah, 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 of in this agency, a general from this, someone who's at the treasury, someone who's working with the Chinese elders, someone who literally emerged from a tabletop coffin and now is speaking prophecy, right? All these different things that people talk about, right? And believe me, when I say this, I was one of these people. I had really great access to things before I met Kim Gogan, right? So I had great access to all types of intel. And because I had great access to all types of intel, I thought I was putting out the best intel. But then what I started doing is I got different intel, and General Dunford actually sent a message to me through a guy who was training me, but maybe he was just my handler, I guess, named Fisher. And he told me to say, look, put out both sides of the intel and see what happens. Because what I would do is I'd kind of put out the intel I liked, right? And I'd hold back things. But when I started putting out both sides of the intel, I got more intel and more connections, and all types of people reach out to me. So I realized the whole thing was bullshit. All these sources I had, these super high up Chinese elder, all these contacts and the treasure, all these amazing, intelligence sources and, different agencies, they were all basically perpetuating the same lie. And this is how I learned. This is how I learned it, right? Somebody paid for me to be in the Chinese elder chat room. It was a paid platform. They'd have this Thursday morning meeting where all of their plans would be discussed. And so I would get to hear where every psyops started. I would see exactly how the psyops would start from the Chinese elders out. And then it would go one way and evolve into their narrative and go the other way and evolve into that narrative. But everything started from the same source. So this is where all of the alternative media is getting their information, unfortunately, is from one of these super secret sources, right? Or from other people that are channeling and connecting. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of good information and good intentions out there with people, but for the most part, we kind of got to iron out the wrinkles, right? So let's start with, I guess we'll start with BRICS, right? I said all that to give you kind of a backdrop, right? Because a lot of people get really excited about BRICS, right? But the goal was to collapse the collapse the US dollar, thus collapsing the global financial system. Then the dragon families and the various members of the order could come in and buy back everything for pennies on the dollar. And what they would do is they would convince you, mere mortal, all of us muggles on the ground here, right? They would tell us it's your fault, but we, the rich elite banking class of blah blah blah, will come in to save the day, right? So they're all postured up for this, right? So all the Elon Musks and all the do nothing social elites, right? That look really impressive. I mean, it's kind of like they look really average, but they really talk about them like they're impressive, right? So it's one of my biggest pet peeves is kind of glorified mediocrity. Like you haven't really done anything, but we're going to talk about it like you have, right? So that's kind of what they did. Now, all these different groups that are face front, and then the kind of evil empire that's behind them, right? They would be the ones really buying it up. They put these people out there like lambs to the slaughter to play whatever role it is that they're supposed to play. And that's what's been done for a long time. So BRICS, what is BRICS? Now, BRICS is supposed to be back. It's all these different countries, right? Like I think Brazil, China, Russia, that have come together, right, to change the way things are done. But there's a much deeper reality behind this, right? Now, first of all, the reason why BRICS coin, which is just another digital currency, another form of cryptocurrency, basically, and what they claim is that what's going to save the day, right, is blockchain. Blockchain is going to save the day. Now, blockchain is basically a tracking system, and blockchain is a great technology for organizing the PTA or, organizing a business even, right? So that you can track what everybody's doing. But it does not have the capability to make enough transactions per second to support the global financial system. The actual global financial system has been operated and running based on a massive quantum AI or quantum mapping system that transacts billions of transactions per second. So blockchain isn't going to cut it. No matter how many places you put blockchain, it would grind the economy to a to a halt. Now the other thing is that BRICS was going to try to claim assets to back their coin, right? So what they were using it for is they were going to use it, and this is my understanding. I might have some details wrong here, but I think I got the basic principle right. They were going to use it to back the global financial system, and the way they were going to do that is there was this big event that was supposed to happen, and they were going to reclaim all the assets. They had access to the assets, and what they were going to do is there used to be something called the asset. Now I heard it called the asset redemption system. Kim Gogan called it something different the other day, like the asset, but something asset. Now basically what that was all the assets on the earth, even in-ground assets, have been registered. Now when something is registered, it's owned by someone else. That's how it works. And what they do is you would leverage these assets to create currency. But to do this, you have to have access to what we used to call the quantum mapping system, or the alpha system, or the key integrated monetary system, which now has been completely replaced by the light system. Catch all that, right? So, yeah. So the way that money used to work was the money could only be created when it was connected to darkness, right? So to create, they would harvest the light and create darkness, and money had to have a dark agenda. That's really how it worked, right? And a lot of us probably suspected that based on how our financial world went, right? When we tried to do good work. But that's how it always worked. Money kind of had this evil curse energy to it. That's real, believe it or not. That was a real thing, actually part of the digital system, the computer reality of everything that we did, everything. And so what they were going to do is they were going to try to activate BRICS so they could take back over the world, right? And then they were going to hold us all hostage, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is BRICS could never work because for a couple of reasons. One, they do not have access to the asset redemption system. In other words, they don't own anything anymore. They don't own the registry. They registered it with the unknown country, which is now the global repository. So they don't own anything. The global repository owns it. So they can't leverage the assets of the global repository to create currency, which means they don't have access to new allocation numbers. You need a unique allocation number for every single bill that comes into the system. And they do not control that. That is controlled, again, by the currency curator, right? Far above them, of which they are in a war with right now, like literally a war with. So that's the second reason. They don't have allocation numbers. They can't bring in money. They can't possibly register they can't use the assets that are registered. And if they were going to use blockchain, which is always what we hear, right? People always say the quantum financial system, which there is no specific quantum financial system. There's a quantum mapping system, and there's lots of different quantum kind of AIs, I guess. But I think they all connect back to the same one. I think now there's actually just one quantum mapping system, the light system, the alpha system. Right? So none of these things would work because no one who's trying to use them actually understood how any of it worked. So all the people out there who thought they were the masters of the universe and they were favored by alien blah, blah, blah. You're not favored by those things, first of all. Second of all, you don't know how these things work, which has been demonstrated over and over and over again by your constant defeat at the hands of life force enforcement, or I don't even know what Kim's calling it now, but at the hands of Kim Gogan, who's a master strategist, ground commander, who's overcome every possible obstacle that you've thrown up. And because I'm not sure, because she's a woman, I think there's a problem. They don't like that she's a woman and she's outmaneuvering them. So they constantly try to play the same things, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at. That's why it will not work. Does that make sense, or did I give too much information there, or not enough?
We have a question. Oh, there's a bit of...
All right. What's the question? What exactly is the unknown country? What a fun feature. I didn't even know we could do that. How cool. Yeah. Great question, Monica Grutter. Um, so the unknown country is actually mentioned in documents, all major international documents. It is actually even mentioned in the Bible. You'll see the Apostle Paul goes into a place and he says he's talking about the different gods. And he says, you talk about the different idols they had, right? I think it's in Ephesus, right? And he says, one of the idols says to the unknown, right? Well, the unknown is actually mentioned in contracts, international contracts all over the world. And it's mentioned because the unknown country is a registered entity that all other countries exist beneath. Everything else exists underneath it. That's at least that's how it was. Now, Kim might have changed that as a technicality. That's a term that I've used and that Kim you used to use. And technically, every major international treaty was with the unknown country. So when you would have a war treaty, right, the Treaty of Versailles, it was with the unknown country. Or it was, and oftentimes you'd have mentioned in these documents the great dictator or the all in all or the most high, and all of these are referring to the kind of the Marduk position, this title, the Duke of the Sea, the head of this world. Kind of the M1 would be, now it's not, M1's not really a title, it's a monetary classification, but people would often refer to this character as the M1. So the unknown country is that entity. It's also the trust, I guess you could say it that way. This is my understanding of it, right? Like the unknown country is its own country. It's its own country. It's got its own country code in the financial system, its own designation, and everything, all the treaties with the United Nations go back to the unknown country. Anything that's international goes back to, it's a treaty with the unknown country. That's why a lot of these treaties are still in force, because a treaty remains in force as long as one entity doesn't violate the treaty. So, for example, you may have heard mentioned the high-speed monorail, which was an international monorail that was supposed to connect every country on the planet, right? This was signed in 1978, and there was actually songs about it. It was public, right? What wasn't public is what the technology was going to be used to create this. Now, this high-speed monorail would have had one level that would have been below ground and another level that would have been above ground. And the one below ground would have actually carried goods like all types of food and water and minerals and whatever was needed to different places. And this would have connected all over the world at super, super fast speeds, right? That's one. Underground. So it would have eliminated the chance for things to be stolen. Then the other part of it would have been above ground, or will be. These things, actually, there is prototypes from what I hear that have been made. And this is still a treaty that is in force. So in 1978, every country in the world signed a treaty with the unknown country to build the high-speed monorail and connect the entire world. This would have connected everything, right? So the one above ground, the train above ground, would have actually used anti-gravitational technology. And that would have literally, wouldn't have needed a rail at all. It would have just shot out straight over the water. And this will happen. This will be created and it'll connect every country in the world. Now, here's the best part. It would be made, or will be made, of the same alloy as the Ark of the Covenant, right? So the same combination of metals used to create the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the arks, there's 7 of them, 7 arks of the Covenant, were strategically placed at points all over the planet to stabilize the tectonic plates and the energy, the toroidal fields of the entire planet, because they were source conduits for energy, right? And they would help stabilize the energetic fields of the planet, right? And help everything around them thrive. So imagine you'd have this train and it would be made from that same substance. So while you would ride the train, you would literally be helping your own health just by riding the train. And there'd be research centers set up around the world at these 7 key points with the high-speed monorail, that where in those 7 key points is where the veil, where the rare earth minerals would be of the highest concentration. And not only that, so they would be used to make the high-speed monorail and many other things, but it's also where the veils between dimensions would be the thinnest. So like that's also where you would go kind of, I guess, my understanding is kind of like your international space station travel, right? Like for other beings coming in and out. That's where that would be. And that would all be connected to the high-speed monorail, right? Now, this contract actually remains in force from 1978. It's still in force. Why? Because the one entity is the unknown country, which is controlled by Kim Gogan. And she never violated the treaty. In fact, she actually put out the money to every country in the world because they pledged their assets, right? And after 40 years, she put money out to all these countries in the world to honor the contract for them to begin work on the high-speed monorail. So the unknown country is kind of the ultimate country. It kind of exists in the ether, though. It's not really a piece of land per se. It's more of a designation. I guess I could have just said that too, but I thought the other story was so cool. I just want to share it. What you laughing at? What you laughing at? All right. What else? Oh, what is the way to enforce these contracts? I'm not sure which contracts. The one I just mentioned, Monica? Is that what she's referring to? What is the way to enforce these contracts? Great question, because you have an order that's basically, run amok for many, many years. So what happened was there was kind of the leader of the evil empire, which was kind of Marduk, Enlil, and Enki. So what Marduk did, because the greedy slave masters or the greedy piglets, right, of the cabal, deep state, Rothschild, dark orders, right, the various evil characters that have been running the world, they were supposed to build this train. And after almost 40 years, what they did instead is they bought up the land where the train would run to prevent it from being built, because it would basically destroy everything. It would take away their control because it would connect everyone, right? Now, so I guess Marduk, not pleased with this, not that he was a good guy, but in 2007, he shut off their access to the off-ledger accounts, right? In 2007, all of them got shut off from the off-ledger accounts. Now, this is true, and anybody out there who happens to hear this, or anybody who knows someone who does contract work, or an operative for the deep state, or the order, or the military, right? And they would go do a job, and they would be paid, like whatever that job is, could be anything, and they would be paid on off-ledger accounts. So they would keep a little black book. In that little black book, they would write down an account number and an amount, right? So they get $2 million for a job, they write down that number. And that's how they'd be paid. And they used to be able to go to the Rothschilds or the Dragon families or whoever and request this money when they wanted to buy something, because it was their money, right? So they would do this until 2007. In 2007, everyone got cut off. So no one has accessed the off-ledger accounts until Kim Gogan since that time. So all of the operatives which means there's banking operatives and treasury operatives and political operatives and military operatives, all types of operatives out there, right, who would go do contract work, all types of different contracts. They're still waiting on these contracts now. So they were all cut off in 2007, right? They were all cut off in 2007. Now, since then, it's slowly built up to a war. They blamed Kim Gogan for this, but she's not the one that cut him off. It was Marduk, right? Her predecessor. And it's been a war to bring these funds back on ledger so that we can begin projects like the high-speed monorail and various other high-speed monorail, things like this, right? And how do you enforce contracts like this? You know what? That's a great question, because right now we're still in the process of watching these people come up with plans to cannibalize and destroy the whole planet. We're still watching that happen. So how do you enforce this? Well, it must have something to do with us, the people. It must have something to do with all these locks and chains and binds and spells and black magic that has been being shed from us that somehow we're the ones that have to enforce it. That's how I feel. Now, how you would do that, I'm not telling anybody to go do anything actively. I'm just saying that's how I feel about it. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's an echo on Laura's line, so she's now doesn't want to talk because of that. That's totally. I think your echo is okay though. It's okay.
Okay, so obviously we're live, so everyone can hear this. You're in the other room, so there's a bit of like a thing happening.
Yeah, it's okay.
Like a whistle off camera.
Here, you talk.
No, go. You talk. No, I think it's okay now, isn't it?
It's fine, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're good now. So, so one of the things that you said that it's up to us to do this, right? This is the thing that kind of gets me. It's like, okay, what does that exactly mean? What do we have to do? Because we see that they haven't stopped, and you're saying it's up to us. But what do you do if, like, you don't know anyone? Where do you go to? Who do you go to? Things like that. What do you do? You've been with Kim. You kind of know a little bit about this. Kind of know how this kind of works. A lot of us here, we don't. So
how do we enforce? Now, one, please let me clarify. I don't think anybody should do anything silly to go try to enforce contracts, right? These global contracts. These contracts, at the end of the day, what does it come down to? It comes down to, we are the ones made in the likeness and image of God, of source. Now, what does that mean? So if I'm made in the likeness, right? Well, that means I look like, I have the same constituent parts. I have the same components, right? So I have the same, I have arms and legs, eyes. I have, but not just that, but a soul, a spirit. Right? I have all these incredible attributes, a DNA, right? That's all likeness. Those are all things that are like God. Then what's image? Well, image are the intangible, invisible qualities that make us who we are, the essence, energy, consciousness, the these things that you can't see with your physical eyes, but they define who you are, right? They define, when you walk into a room, people know, almost immediately, like, oh, great, so and so's here, or oh, great, so and so's here, right? I mean, everything changes. So that's an energetic thing. So there's a power to that energy. And you probably, if you're asking the question, you're probably aware that you have that natural ability, right? You have that natural ability to connect with other people's frequency, understand them better, communicate better, maybe communicate without words at all, right? All these latent abilities that are inside of us, these are things that are qualities that help us communicate and change the world and manifest the world that we choose to live in. Because the world we're in now, we have to take credit for. Even though we've been deceived, lied to, poisoned, lied to about where we're from, where we're going, all these different things. Even though that, the world that exists is one that we have created and manifested with our actual belief system. It's, we believed the wrong people, which, I've done many times, believed the wrong thing or believed that something was real. We believe our lifespan is limited, right? We believe our history is limited to this very, small, ridiculous thing taught and programmed into us in schools. We believe that these things are real, or we have at some point, and they've structured who we are. So how do you break that programming? Well, you start to consider things from multiple perspectives, right? Kim actually used to call this the 50 factor. You consider every situation and scenario from 50 different possibilities. If I do this, what could happen? This could happen, 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 this could happen. All these different possibilities. Yeah. Okay. All these different possibilities could take place. All these different realities could be created based on my one little action, right? Some people call it the butterfly effect. So how do we change what's happening now? Well, if we stop giving our power to these evil entities, we start taking our power back. So how do we take our power back? Well, let's stop buying their food. How do we stop buying their food? That's probably going to take some time, but let's stop doing it. Okay. So first, let's plant gardens. Here's one of the most powerful things you can do in the entire world. plant a garden. Plant a garden and become an expert gardener. Become an expert house gardener so you can understand how you can have tomatoes all year round in your house. Figure out how you can have, zucchini and fresh fruit. How do you do that? Can you do that? I'm sure there's a way. I don't know how, but I'd love to interview anybody who can. I remember we actually were working with a group called Cure for Hunger, and they had Skunk Works technology that were like biodomes, right? They took up an acre of land, and inside this biodome, it created its own electricity. So free energy, that's one. And it used atmospheric water generators to create the water to water all the plants inside, and it would trick the growing season. So this one thing would make enough food to feed 50,000 people in this 1 acre of land and create an extra 2,000 gallons of fresh drinkable water every day. That technology works. Cure for Hunger. They're brilliant. Now, they got their tech from Skunk Works, which means it's Cabal tech. Actually, let me correct that. It was some great scientist technology that the Cabal stole. Because that's what they do. They let you go so far and create an amazing technology. It could change the world. And they go, it could? Well, here, let's take it out of your way then. Right? Let's make sure you can't change the world because they don't want that. So what they did with him, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure where he's gone since. Maybe these are working. But he made this amazing technology that he couldn't get off the ground. I mean, you could drop one of these domes in the Sahara Desert and it would have made enough food for 50,000 people. Right? So this is the kind of thing that happens, right? They know the power of if you can grow your own food. So we should be able to do that, right? Because I know you can. Because Laura, doesn't your father create his own little hydroponic gardens?
He does. He does. But I think there's a lot of people out there that some of them live on, they have a balcony. They can't do that. There's a little bit, it's not that simple sometimes. It's not that simple to say, I'm just not going to use them. That's just me being honest with you. Yeah, grow a garden. Great, you could. But what if you can't? What do you do then?
What if you can't? If you live in a building that you have a balcony, if you live in a building that has a rooftop, if you live in a living room, right? If you live in a bedroom, you got space. You can do it.
You can do it.
You know what? And I'll tell you what, here's what I would say. Stop believing there's anything you can't do. That's number one. Stop believing there's anything you can't do and find a way to do it. And please do me a favor. Tell me how. I'm not telling you I've got a master. What I'm saying is there's definitely a way to do it. Let's discover that together. That's what Life Force is all about. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure. Like we have a little balcony space. Can we do that? I'm not sure. I bet I could try. I bet I could probably, make a little sub garden outside and nobody would say anything about it. I could probably just start growing food. No one would care. They'd be like, hey, are you growing food? I'd be like, yeah. Is it fresh? Like, yeah. Like, can I have some? Sure. Then all of a sudden, nobody cares what you're doing. It's like, I'm just sharing. I'm making food. You can have it too. And if we did that enough, we keep doing that. We repeat that process. What happens? Now everybody's growing food. And what happens? We stop using food that's, riddled with pesticides. And all of a sudden we start to think clearer, start to feel better. Now we're connecting better with source. Now we can grow food just with our mind and faster. All that's possible. So there's one thing to do, right? I talked to a guy, Papa Ron, the other day, and Papa Ron is working with Habitat for Humanity to create these small, 36 family communities with super fresh water within the community and gardens within the community and ways to connect with other people within this little housing community. Right. So imagine a community, because, people might not know this, but they build, areas, communities, counties, whatever, around grocery stores. The first thing they put in is a grocery store. Why? Because what does everyone do? They want to be as close to the grocery store as possible. That's how people, that's very normal here in the United States, maybe not everywhere. Obviously not everywhere, but what I'm saying, that's very normal, right? So imagine if instead of a grocery store, we started putting in, these biodomes, and the biodomes were crazy expensive, like $14.5 million, right? But I know we can make a hydroponic plant out of an old storage container, right? And we grow all types of food just in there. We could take an old beat down truck, right? The back end of a Mack truck, and we could turn that into a whole garden of food, right? All that's possible, right? So there's ways to do it. And it doesn't mean that, okay, now go build this amazing thing. How about we just start? That's why I said, let's start with a garden in our house, right? Let's start with a couple plants
That's a good
and see.
idea. No, it's a great idea. That's how my father started. He's been in. He's a farmer, so he's a full cowboy. And so the thing that he's grown up just knowing how to do these things, and he's just self-taught himself, and then he obviously studied it, and so on and so on. So I know there's a way to do it, and look, it tastes so much different when you're actually eating something that you've grown and you know what's in it than buying it at the grocery store. There is a big difference. So I know there's a way to do it. It's just there are some people and I love what you said. Don't say you can't do it. There's always a way. And when you said, we'll do it outside, I was like, actually, that's a good point, because all I kept thinking was, I have a dog that's going to be like running and banging all the fruit and vegetables, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I can do this. So, but when you gave that other suggestion, I was like, yeah, there's different ways that you can do it. So I get that. So just another question, we're going to go back to what we were going to be talking about. So one of the things that Kim mentioned, that on June 17th to June 22nd, they're planning to say that Trump has died of a heart attack, and they're going to make it as big as when Elvis died, and so on and so on. Can you just give me a little bit of what you think? Because we've heard that Trump's no longer alive. He is a clone, so on and so on. Also, there was some speculations about the height being different. So what's your thoughts about this martyr, this hero, Donald Trump? Tell me all about him. What's going to happen?
Laura's doing a great job, isn't she? Isn't she nailing it here? Okay.
I'm in the back end. So.
We're going to go from topic to jump. Okay, we're in on Trump now. Okay, scene. Here we go. I'm just playing. You're doing great. Okay.
You told me to keep it on track.
Yeah, no, you're doing great. So she's keeping me in the flow. She's keeping me in the flow. Okay. So
we're doing good. This is our first.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. The rumors have it. These are what the rumors are in the alternative media community and various other places. Remember, rumors are floated out there by plans from MI6, which is the British intelligence agency, or part of it, right? And the CIA work together, usually to put out the rumors that are given to them by the dragon families. This is how the world worked. Right? So they put out these rumors, and they leak them to operatives in the Trump campaign in different groups, and they start talking in super secret language, like what is that guy's name? Juano's saving nothing, sitting around showing his boots off, like, well, let me tell you about old Juan, what I can tell you. So, anyways, all the secret do nothing groups that have been waiting around to eventually change the world, but really, they have no idea what's actually going to happen. They really don't know. So this intel gets leaked out. Now, here's what the rumor is. Now, you could take this and share it with your friends on TikTok, okay? The rumor is that former President Donald Trump, and defamed billionaire, right, has had a heart attack and died. This is the new rumor. And the Trump family and the Trump organization, which is much bigger than just the Trump family, is trying to sell this to media organizations, outlets, with the promise of a $5 billion payout. I think that's what the story is. Or they get a $5 billion. And they're going to make this funeral bigger than Elvis's funeral, which, if anybody was alive when Elvis was, which I wasn't, but I heard it was epic. It was the biggest deal in the world, right? That Elvis the King had died, right? So, is this possible? Why would it be the 17th to the 21st or the 22nd, somewhere in that range, that they'd have this major media event? Right now, allegedly it's a man's death, and it's now supposed to be this major media event. So is this possible? Probably not, because the $5 billion isn't available. Would Trump be publicly declared dead? I think that's inevitable. At some point, they're going to have to say that Trump, the actual Donald Trump, is passed on. He has passed on, from what I understand. That we have intel that came directly from Don Jr., but he actually died. It looks like 2 years ago, and they've been parading these body doubles up in front of everyone to basically keep the energy and the movement of Donald Trump alive, right? And they made a really big deal about it. Why? Because Donald Trump got up and did what we all want. He was a cowboy in his own right, right? He got up there and told off the media. He said, they're all lies. This is all garbage, right? Which was true, right? He got up and told the truth that, that was really powerful about Donald Trump. Now, did he do it in a real compelling, intelligent way? Yeah, but did it sound very intelligent? No, not always, right? He actually spoke at the level of very simple, base level people, kind of like I think his in speech recognition, they actually looked at it as speaking at a third grade level to people, like they're liars, they're bad, they're, the way little kids speak, right? That's kind of what he did. Now I'm not mocking; it was brilliant because Barack Obama would get up and say brilliant things, but he was an animal. He did horrible things to the country. But the things he would say seems so eloquent, right? But he was no bueno. Donald Trump, I'm not saying Donald Trump is good or bad. Well, I am. Donald Trump is bad. But the whole organization, the things he did, he got up and he looked like he was going to change the world, right? He got up, he did basic things. They were basic things, right? This is the glorified mediocrity that we could talk about. Like, for example, he brought U.S. manufacturing back to the United States. Brilliant. Not really. It never should have left, right? These are basic principles of running a country, a business, or a lemonade stand, right? Of course, you would do that. Now, did it seem brilliant? Yes. By comparison to the previous presidency, all of the previous presidencies, it seemed brilliant. How did we as a country and the rest of the world allow 85% of global manufacturing to be done in China? So much so stupid. Now, I put this intel out years ago because the Chinese were actually paying the U.S. military for years, right? And how do they pay them? Well, we took U.S. manufacturing of weapons, including intelligence microchips that go in U.S. battleships. This is a fact. You can look it up. So Chinese-made microchips were placed in U.S. battleships, which allowed them to track the location at all times of every single U.S. battleship. So Trump put a stop to some of this stuff, things like that. Is it brilliant? What, was he a mastermind playing 5D chess now? These are basic things. Who's the dumbass who let that happen in the first place? Who was like, you know what we should do? We could save some money by having China make our microchips for our battleships. What? Come on, Cletus. Like, who came up with that idea in the first place? Okay, yes, I totally agree. But what is Trump become? Yes, so you're absolutely right. He's become this very powerful symbol, right? The symbol of standing up to the hierarchy, to the evil arch, blah blah blah, right? That is a valuable image. Actually, we actually tried to work with Trump directly because of that. We tried to work with Trump. We gave him access to an incredible technology that would have cured not only COVID-19, but all types of things, including cancer and all types of other things. And he could have offered to give him the money to promote this all over the country and then give it to the entire world. If he wanted to save the world, I know for a fact the Global Repository gave him every opportunity to do just that. And he turned it down. And instead, what he did is he went with Operation Warp Speed to push out vaccines in the middle of a pandemic, which is the absolute dumbest thing any group has ever done. It discredited the entire medical world. No one could read a basic medical report anymore. No one could look at a clinical study. Suddenly, everyone went dumb all at the same time. And they couldn't figure out, what do we do? We can't talk about anything. We can't do anything. We're not allowed to function, right? Why? Because Operation Warp Speed, it's going to save lives. No, it wasn't. It still hasn't. The evidence from the Cleveland Clinic has shown absolutely it doesn't save anybody's life. It's actually much more dangerous. So that being said, Trump he had a chance to change it. He had a chance to change everything. He was given on a silver platter with evidence, all the financial backing. He could have changed everything. And not only that, it wasn't just this one thing. That's one thing that we brought to him, and I say we because I was working with Kim Gogan at the time in the GIA. But also, I met another scientist who actually met with Trump and his lawyers. He met with Giuliani, and he had this blood-based washing system that would completely destroy COVID and also cure many other diseases, right? And this was brought to Giuliani and was brought to Trump as well. It would have been amazing. It would have been an alternative treatment to anything else, and it would have also cured many diseases. I met the scientists, and that also got buried by the same Trump organization. So, that being said, what good has come? Well, all these people have woke up because of the Donald Trump campaign. All these people are now looking at things more discerning. All these people are considering there's real conspiracies and lies from these organizations we've been programmed to trust. All that's good. I think all that's good that Donald Trump, the legacy of Donald Trump has created. Do I think that could all go down at any moment? I actually hope they're honest about what's happened with Donald Trump and they do announce that he's died, because at least then that image, that energy created of all the good things there, maybe that will still encourage people to do some good on their own and not look to somebody to save them. Maybe that will encourage them to do something.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of like a confusion between saving. I think people are just looking for someone that has power or has the voice or can do something about it. And I think that's why they look towards him. I don't think anyone's looking at him as a savior, and I think I tread on that a bit lightly, but I really don't, because one of the things that I've always said, no matter what movement you're in, we're all kind of in the same thing, which is protect the children and that we want to be free. I think we can all agree on that. So I think that once the truth comes out, and as the domino effect starts coming down, because like there's a lot of truth coming out now. We've been talking about that. I think if this does happen on the 17th or the 22nd, if that does happen, I think this is an opportunity for people to realize, well, what do we do now? Because that's what's going to happen. Everyone is just going to be like, our savior's gone and he's this hero. But this is where I get really frustrated, because there was a lot of things that he did. I get what you're saying, that he did good things, but he also did really things. Oh. He did really, he didn't do the best of things. You've got to give me a bit of warning. Help me out here.
So you're saying Trump didn't do the best of things. That's true.
Look. Yeah, go.
No, that's okay. I mean, look, like Trump is an image, is an icon, it's a legend. Do I think that Trump is the savior of anything? Absolutely not. I think, though, you said something really, really important. Is people are looking for someone with the power to change things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what a great point. So I am going to tell you where this person is. Go look in the mirror, right? Go look in the mirror, because the person with the power to change things is you. You have the power to change things. Now, you can change it by the way that you conduct yourself with your kids, the way you love your family, the way growing a garden, I guess, which I'm big into gardening now, right? Like all these little things that you can do to change the world and start with your world and allow that to expand to touch other people's world and allow that to continue to expand, right? The way that light works, it's really an amazing thing, right? The more you shine, right, you kind of find yourself in surrounded by darkness, and the more you shine, that light expands until someone else sees it, and then it connects with someone else's light. Now your light just doubled, right, and expands even more. That's how this works. That our light is constantly connecting to others. Now, what that requires is stop being a punk. Stop sitting around talking about, I don't like to talk about this. It's not politically correct, right? Like, I don't want to offend anyone. Man, screw that. Offend everyone. I'd rather people be offended. I'd rather you be offended. I would rather offend you and have you remember what I said than remember nothing that I said and be like, that was a nice show, wasn't it? Wasn't it nice? Remember the one? No, I don't remember anything. No, but it was nice, right? Screw that. I'd rather be offensive and be like, remember when he said this? Who does he think he is? And I think I'm you. I'm just like you. And I think I'd rather be offensive and be myself than fit in and not, So I agree, the thing with Trump, right? People are looking for someone with the power to change things. That was a really powerful thing that you said. So, and what are they also looking for? They're looking at somebody that has the swagger and sway. Well, really what he had was the support of the cabal, right? They knew all the ins and outs to make it look like, oh my gosh, we're going to make him a hero. The most brilliant cabal-controlled marketing campaign of all time was the Q movement. Brilliant. To act like you have inside access to what's really going on, right? Which it was actually being run by Jared Kushner. This is actually definitely true. Even Ivanka Trump didn't know that, who was, his wife.
Oh, she didn't know? I didn't know that.
She didn't know till later, yeah. She's like, is this true? Oh, well, actually, no, excuse me. She knew he was running it, but didn't know that it was bad. Because it was leaking out information that was cool and interesting, right? But it had this covert agenda to set people up, right? I mean, think about it. January 6th, how ridiculous. And we're going to interview somebody, actually a friend of mine who's a truck driver, and he went there, a business owner as well. I mean, and just an all-around humanitarian guy. And he went to the Capitol on January 6th, right? January 6th is when all the alleged riots, right? Remember the guy came out with the big bullhead, right? Who is a paid actor to act like a jackass and make everybody who follows Trump to make everybody look like jackasses, right? That was all intentional, right? But he was there and he told me this. I thought it was fascinating. He was saying that everything was planned. The Citadel are the ones who ran security at the Capitol building, and they just opened the doors. They were escorting people through, right? Hey, right this way, right? Like it was normal. And when the windows broke, now the windows should have been made of bulletproof glass, first of all, so they shouldn't have been that easy to break. When they broke, he was there. He said it was a plexiglass, so they put in plexiglass so it would break easily, and they could just stage this. We're rioting, right? All this stuff. So that entire event was staged, right? They just did one example, and that was staged to, I don't make it look like Trump was rabble rousing, I guess, or some dumb thing like that.
Is this the same guy that they put him in prison? Is this the guy that you're talking about?
Yes, this guy was put in jail, in a low security jail for 6 weeks or 6 months. But I mean, for nothing. He was just there. And wait, and not only that, but this is what they did. He left, right? He was dry. I mean, it was months later. So imagine all the things that were going on. He wasn't part of the leadership. He didn't organize it. He didn't go in the Capitol building. He just happened to be there. So, but I think it's because he did an interview with United Network. I think that's why they got him. Because they thought, oh, this guy might have a voice, right? So he was driving his truck. He gets pulled over by some cops. And so he's got his gun, right? Because he doesn't know what's going on, right? And it turns out he gets there, and it was a U.S. Marshal and Secret Service. So they came all the way from Washington, D.C. They deployed federal agents to go get him. And he had no criminal record. And when they did, they put him in jail for 6 weeks for protesting without a permit. I think that's right. And we'll have him on an interview and he can talk about it later. But that's the kind of bullshit they were putting out there to like they would just take out anybody, do things like that. That's the kind of pomp and circumstance that they would create. Go ahead.
But didn't they also make him sign something afterwards because it ended up being like that he couldn't actually talk about an NDA? Like, I think this is the same guy that we're talking about, right? Because I just want to make sure, because I remember hearing that and going, what? How is this even possible? And he went to jail and then and he stopped talking to you after this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for a little while there. I don't know if he signed an NDA. Hopefully not. Thank goodness I haven't mentioned his name then. But he told me we were talking about doing a podcast together and doing interviews. So I know that. Yep. So maybe he'll come under a secret name. But by the way, screw everybody in the government who thinks that they have the right to do that. This man was at a place. You are operating under the laws of Washington, D.C., which only apply to that 10-mile radius. You don't even have the right to do that. You don't have the right to do that. And if he would have been public about it, you'd think it would stop. But there's dozens of people still now, or hundreds, that are still in jail over nothing. This thing was orchestrated with FBI agents directly involved. How do you have an FBI agent involved in the planning of this, and then you blame the people? So this is the kind of setup and maneuvering the government, the so-called government, the agencies, it's the order, right? It's all the deep state order. They set us up like this all the time. And that's why I would say what's great about the legend of Donald Trump, because maybe the reality is something people don't really want to hear. But the legend of Donald Trump is he exposed that, right? That's why we loved him. Like, he exposed that kind of nonsense and ridiculous behavior. So for that, that idea behind Donald Trump is awesome. The reality, though, is not. It's not awesome. It's not good. It's not kind or benevolent or in any way. He knew what the vaccines would do long before. He still promoted Project Warp Speed. He knew the damage what they would cause. He knew that. Right? I'm sorry. I'm probably not even supposed to say that word, right? We're supposed to tiptoe around YouTube or some dumb thing like that, right? We're supposed to, we're not allowed to say certain words because of censorship or whatever nonsense that goes on here.
Yeah.
I hate things.
This is why we're getting the network up and running, so we'll be up and running soon, and then we won't have that issue, and we can talk about whatever we want, and we can go live whenever we want.
We actually have our own network. We just had to take it down temporarily because we couldn't quite pay the bills for a little while. So we're just raising that money back up to relaunch it and keep it going. But it is what it is,
We've got this for now. We keep it going. We keep it rolling. So anyways, so Mr. Rao, you've been listening to Kim. We haven't spoken about anything that, we haven't come out about anything, but she has been saying some really amazing things that I know we're getting, we're going against time right now, and I'd love to come back and talk about all these things. But out of all the shows that we've been watching, after all the shows we've been watching, what sticks out of you? What are you excited about? Like, when it comes to like the restoration and what to do and what can we do to get involved, and the list goes on, because she really has been saying really incredible things that are really, one, it's historical. But I want to hear what you have to say before I continue.
Kim said that she had a vision or a directive or kind of information directly from source or from God that in 2024 that people would just be walking out of the hospital, walking out cured and healed. And we're almost 6 months in to that, so that's really exciting to me. Kim doesn't often put things out like that are kind of time sensitive, and obviously anything can change, so I'm not holding that, but I will say, no, that's a lie. I am holding that. I do hold that. And I think you should too. I think actually if these things were repeated more often and we started to look at things and believe that way, it started to be like, because there's incredible things that have held us hostage in every possible way, emotionally, physically, spiritually, energetically. There was spells and curses and all types of digital things harvesting our energy. And so Do I think that people are just going to walk out of hospitals cured from cancer, old age, Alzheimer's, AIDS? Absolutely. How amazing. And I would invite you, as crazy as that sounds, come on over to where I live and be crazy like that too. Because if enough of us started to believe that and started to expect that, started to look for it constantly and believe it was happening, actually looked at our own bodies and said, I actually feel great. I feel younger. I actually do this every day. I get up and ground and walk the dog every single morning. And I sit out there and I'm like, I'm getting younger. I feel better. And I do feel better. I do feel stronger. I do feel healthier. I feel like every day. And these things, my feelings are in harmony with God or source or the creator or whatever works for you, right? My alignment with my soul in all ways, I do all I can to align with exactly the highest good for myself. So God in me and God in the world, right? And God in you. And by being in line with that, how exciting what Kim is saying, that people will just walk out of hospitals. Absolutely. Why not? Right? Tap into that feeling. How good does that feel to know like you don't have to worry about death? You don't have to worry about family dying.
Well, I just think, I think it goes even to the point of those, like for me, is just seeing, little kids that are just going to be walking out and actually being able to just be good and healthy again. One of the things for me is seeing my nephew. I went into this because he was vaccine damaged, and I'm going to stop there. But my thing is that just to know that he would be healthy again, that's the whole reason why I did this in the first place, and that makes me really excited for that. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people with kids that have cancer, autism, anything. It could be that endometriosis, and you get healed from it. So that's really exciting for me. But there's other stuff as well that she's been doing that I've been feeling the energy, you've been feeling the energy. The shift is incredible. It has, it's one of the things that we constantly talk about, and we're like, holy moly, what's happening here? Because we can feel something different. Good or bad. It could be something that's coming down, being removed, and it brings it down to one of the things that Kim mentioned was that there was a suicide program put in place, and that was done from, I think she's at the. I'm doing so good.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Anyway.
Okay, so you want me to talk about it?
Yes, I think you should.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about this. Okay. So where do we start with this? All right. So
one of the things that I wanted to say, I think it's really important to talk about, she can actually explain it much more better. So we encourage you to go to unitednetwork.earth and actually hear in her own words everything, like watch it. There's a lot of things that she says that are just incredible. But one of the things that I think is really important to say here is that if you were feeling that you had all these different feelings, like she did mention about there was a suicide program. And she said that you were feeling anxious, you were feeling, what did she say, sad thoughts, strange frequencies, or just, your life was just being drained from you. I think this is the opportunity to actually talk about that, because maybe other people have been feeling that and not knowing why. So you speak, Kim, better than I do, so why don't you go?
I don't know. That's exactly true. But okay, so let's talk about this. So I think this is really important to discuss that the first 2 weeks of June, right, is usually when what Kim calls Hell Week, and she compares it to kind of like when you're hazed for the Marines or the Navy or a fraternity, right, and you're just being bombarded. And the reason why is because in operation in the Looking Glass, which was I think it's like 10 psychics that were parents, right, and they would all have the same vision, and when they did, it would create images, kind of like Minority Report, the movie Minority Report. Now, in these visions, this has been the Bible for the deep state. This was the predictive analysis technology they used to basically make their next move. And if the vision favored them, they would do everything to move those things into place. So what they saw was on June 13th, Kim Gogan conceded to the order, right? And that would be likened unto the light surrendering to the darkness, right? In this case. But it was really June 13th, 2012, because no new images have come out from the Looking Glass since 2012, because all of the histories, all the possible timelines converged into one. Now we're living in the actual reality. And there was, matrices and various things, overlays that existed on this planet, like 10 million different possible realities. That's how we would kind of manifest time jump into different, Mandela effect, into these different worlds, different realities that all kind of coexisted at the same time. And now all of those things, to the best of my limited understanding, have been merged into one. So where you are is reality. This is your reality, to love or to hate, to create or to change, right? So the Abrasics actually, they were the kind of the Orionites, I think they are, right? They were kind of the above the Enlil, Enkis, Anus, right? And they had put things in place in the Alpha system, in the, I don't know, quantum matrix field of this planet, to go off at this time. Right now, this date, 2024, because this is when we break through. This is when we change everything, right? Now, you've seen that too. You were told that. I know. You were told this too, right? That everything changes and comes through in 2024. We don't have to say where it came from, but you were told that too. And you told me that for years, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What a way.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So you can pull me on. It's fine.
Okay. So here. All right. So stay. I'll control those. So, you're doing great. You're doing great. So okay. With that in mind, we should be looking for breakthroughs. We should be looking for change. We should be looking for things to be miraculous. So what happened was, this was so great. You got to watch it. I mean, like anybody out there, like hopefully United Network will put it on YouTube with like a little clip of this. But it basically talks about, she was saying how on this date they always put in all these traps, right? So this program was some X program, right? And the deep state thought, yeah, that means we're going to go back to a neutral, like like light and dark. And the Abrasics, this is amazing. The Abrasics had clones for every single human being, Abrasics clones that looked like you and me, for every single human being on the planet. And they were going to basically come in and replace us. And then the deep state order hierarchy, right, the Canaanite bloodline, whatever, they were going to mate with these people, I guess everyone. And then the only bloodline on Earth would be the Abrasics bloodline. And they would reign supreme, right? But in reality, so that was one of them. Then that didn't work. So they were going to, so it's the X program or something like that, the X program. And the X stood for exterminate, right? To exterminate humanity. Now, we're all very familiar with harvesting, right? Harvesting our energy, like the movie Jupiter Ascending, right? Harvesting our energy so they can live longer, whatever, do whatever they do. But this is to exterminate us because we're out of control. Because this plan was set in place for when the light system went into effect, so that the planet was almost 100% source. And the Abrasics had this thing in place to come in and take over, basically, right? So that was exterminate. And then there was another program. And then the last one was the suicide program. So it was like the Abrasics clone program was one, then the exterminate program, and then the suicide program. And the exterminate and suicide program might be the same. So what Laura said is right.
It was a backup, like there was a backup upon backup upon backup, and that's what she was, removing, and then that's what happened. Isn't that how it worked? Like I'm pretty sure that's what it.
Well, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, at the end of the day, this is our perspective, and we recommend go watch it, see it for yourself. We want to hear what you have to say about it as well, and then we can have an open discussion about this, because that's what's so exciting. It's like hearing all these things. It's like, what does that mean for us? Like, what did you feel? Like, I know I felt really anxious, and I felt like someone was trying to take the life out of me. Now, was that because of what we did? Maybe. I'm not sure, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, maybe it's coming from there. I have no idea. But when she explained it, it made sense to me. Then I thought, oh, I'm not going crazy. This is happening to me. And so then you hear these things. But the best thing about this is that you start to learn that other people, are experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing, or you have an explanation for it. So then you learn to then push it away and then transmute darkness to light. And then there's so many things that it's a learning process as well. So it's really good when I hear what she says, and then I can actually go, oh, I did feel that. I did see that. So anyways, continue what you were saying.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I want you to talk about that more, because I think it's really valuable what you're saying. And I've heard you talk about this before, right? Laura is super sensitive and very in tune with things. So when things are happening, she's very aware of what's going on. And she's very humble about it, but I'm telling you, like, it's a gift, and she'll be able to she'll tell me what's coming oftentimes, or like she'll check with me, like, do you feel anything? Or and then she won't, and then she's kind of help me tap into that within myself too. So, oh, I feel this, and this, and realizing I'm not crazy. Like, no, something's hitting us right now. This is energy that's real, and oftentimes Kim will confirm it in her broadcast,
Yeah.
right?
And I think the other thing is to talk about is that there's also new energy coming in. So because the new energy is coming in, it's really hard to, sorry, because there's new energy coming in, no one's ever felt that before. So this is new for a lot of people, actually for everyone. We've never felt the energy that's coming in this planet right now. So I think that's the other thing. So many times I always ask myself, I'm like, wait, is this just because I don't know the feeling, or is it because it's something bad? Because if anyone's ever gone through change, you probably know that when you're going through change, it's a little bit like, what's this feeling? I don't know what it is. And you start to feel a little bit negative about it. But once you kind of like sit with it, breathe, and then you ask, for guidance, and however you do it. I do it a certain way. You do it however you want to do it. And and my thing is that it's just new energy. We all know that new energy is coming through, and so it's very scary sometimes. So as time goes on, we're going to start learning how to maneuver it. If it's good, if it's bad, it's not always bad. Sometimes it's new. And I've experienced a lot of new things that not just myself, I would then go and talk to other people and say to them, have you been feeling this? What's going on there? And then we kind of go back and forth. And, we're all magical beings. It doesn't matter if you woke up now, if you woke up a year ago, if you woke up 10 years ago. It's your time to shine right now. Hence why we're doing this. They're guiding us to tell us to do these things and start talking about it. So, Mr. Al, you've been feeling these different energies. You've been, seeing different things. What do you do when this comes up? And it's also getting time to jump
Okay,
off.
wait. Before we jump there to that topic, I mean, like, which we're leading that topic, but let's first just take a second. So, Kim Gogan is the master at dropping haymakers on the world and just walking away like it's no big deal, right? It reminds me of a basketball player who shoots a three and just turns around and runs down the court without even looking to see if it goes in. It goes in and they're already doing this, right? Like, Kim does that all the time. And this is one of those things. I want you to think about. She's talking about a master predictive plan by alien beings from the Orion Nebula or whatever star system, I don't even know, right? That are worshipped as gods often believed to be the true God of the Jews is the Abrasics, right? It's believed to be that way in some circles, right? Not so God-like entities to us based on the limited ability. Now we're no different than them. We're just as powerful. We just haven't lived as long. Things like that. We're not as mature spiritually. So I'm not making more of them, but I'm saying this is real. This is a real trap set by these beings, the Abrasics, for the time when humanity would get so close to being 100% light. I mean, think about this. So this is where we are. The worst case scenario for them, that humanity is about to be 100% light and the whole system is crossing over to the light. This trap was set in place to exterminate us. Worst possible scenario. First, the Abrasics clones with a neutral whatever. That didn't work. Somehow exterminate us using a suicide program. Why a suicide program? Because the 7 deadly sins, but the 8th deadly sin is suicide, and you can't come back from that. So if you go to a suicide program, they take you right back into the system, erase your memory, put you right back here on this planet to relive another lifetime where you don't know who you are. And you can't make any progress. All the progress you made in the previous life, gone. That's what they've done to us over and over and over again to make us feel this way. And yesterday is when this was going down. It got really, really intense, right? It was really, really intense. And I was driving, I was working, and I was driving, and I thought I was going to fall asleep at a stoplight. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I had plenty of sleep. I had plenty of energy. It just went, right? So I came home to take a nap before my next appointment. I zipped home, and I'm like, hey, I need to lay down. Right. So I walked in, I told Laura, I'm like, I need to lay down. Like, I'm going to fall down. And I didn't even talk to her. I walked right in and laid down because they were sucking the energy. Now, these are the type of symptoms that Kim was describing, that in the middle of all this, right, this is what she was fighting. Now, I know people don't want to believe this, but who are you that you have the ability and the access to fight things like this? On what level, right? Now, all of us do. Right? We all have that power. We all have the ability to fight these things in our own way, to shield up and protect ourselves, to consciously use our energy for good and for life and for love. We all have that power, that ability. But for real, Kim's got access to a really big, badass quantum super system that's accessing everything, every conversation. That's kind of freaking amazing.
But now that we're talking about that, didn't she say that everyone can access that too? Didn't she talk about that in, months ago? I think it was when she separated, when she expanded by herself. She spoke about this, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So,
all of us, I think all of us can access it at different times. Now, okay, I was with Kim, right? And she brought me into the system, right? I did experience that in a very limited, capacity. And do I fully understand that? Absolutely not. I'm not claiming to. I was so excited when she asked me. I was like, "Oh my god, this is my dream!" And I was so stressed out. Like I psyched myself out. I was trying so hard because I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to let myself down, right? But I just couldn't. I couldn't, right? I just wasn't. So I wasn't like kicking ass and taking names at this. But she did bring me in to see enough, right? Now, so this is.
If I ask you, what did you see? Like, we're live. Might as well ask you, what did you see? Can you give us a little taste of the medicine of like, what is this? Because like, how cool is that? That we can actually be magical beings, that we can do this too. That's pretty cool. So what did you see, or can you explain, what it's supposed to be like? Is it like a machine?
I really, if I did, I'd do it in injustice because I can't say with any clarity, especially at that time. I had better luck now, but the one thing I can tell you, this happened. This is the one thing I saw. There's a couple little things I'll describe. One thing I saw was like there was like a gray, like a little gray alien but I didn't really see them as like a really solid. What I saw is they came over to me and put their forehead against mine, and I felt
Ah,
immediately comforted. They were, I guess, they were communicating with me to see how good I was at this. Is what Kim told me, and confirmed. Like, 'cause Kim in her kind of main area there has these little grays that work with her. So, but anyways, that's something.
sorry,
That's
I
one thing
had
I
to put you
definitely
on the
saw.
spot because many people are always asking these questions, and you just said that, so I had to kind of ask. Or
No,
someone
I,
will.
I mean, that is the one thing I saw, and what I felt was immediately comforted and welcomed.
Oh,
By this being, and very kind and loving, and it was a woman, and that part I got right. And there, and there was also kind of a uh, shifting light that seemed to power everything. That was actually DNA. I believe it's actually was, to be honest, I believe it was Kim's DNA that powered the system, because the system requires her DNA to operate. So that's, I got a vague comprehension of, to see now. Um, but I was also blocked. The things I could see more clearly were the things blocking me. Like which ultimately was my own lack of confidence and belief in what was happening. So
yeah.
it was only a few minutes. So please, I'm not trying to make myself special. Like that to me. I was trying so hard to be. I really, I love this stuff. It's my desire every day to be part of changing the world. Right now, doing this is just what I can do now. What I fully expect, though, is to access abilities and understanding and downloads and a comprehension of God operating in me in you at a different level, so that our spirits are just combining and growing and doing magnificent things.
Mm.
So that's what you know.
Well,
So sorry if that just dumbed down. Like, I just don't want. I just don't want to be. I'm being as honest as I can be about what I remember. So
no, it's just that one of the things is you just said that, so I had to just ask. But no, it's really cool. Like I think all the things that are happening right now are just really exciting because the reality is that why do they come after us so much? It's because we're magical beings and they just want to take our life force because without us, there's no them. So I think that's really cool to know that part, that we do have special gifts. And some of, like I say, everyone's an extraterrestrial. This is another planet. And so we all have to just remember why we came, and so on. However, I think that's for another show because it is getting a little bit late, Mr. Rao. It is 9:23.
okay, well, we can wrap it up for today. That's fine. And we're still doing a Q&A after this, or no?
It's up to you, Mr. Rao. It's how you feel. You ready to
Yes,
go?
we're doing a Q&A after this. So if there's anybody
How
out there who
about?
actually wants to talk, we'd love to hear what you have to say. And
Well,
so,
we'll put it on the chat.
okay. So we'll be posting that link on the chat now. The chat where? On Telegram? Okay, cool. So that'll be on the chat on Telegram. So thank you so much for coming out here today, sharing this with your friends, and helping us change the world. So please, if you want to get in touch with us, you can get in contact with us at what email?
Support at
Yeah.
thelifeforce.network.
Support at thelifeforce.network. And if you have something to contribute, which of course you have something to contribute to, I expect to, if there's 5 people listening, I should get at least 5 emails of people telling me how they want to contribute. So please do that. Because you know what? Like it was said earlier today by Laura, that people are looking for somebody who is powerful, who has the ability to change things. And I am telling you that person is the one looking at you right in the mirror. So please help us do that. I'm Stephen Rao, and this is the Life Force Network. Let's go change the world.